the disclaimer on slide 1, on the first slide. But because it's very hard to find free creative, and there's little time to create something new or fresh always, I need to put this up front because the visuals that I've used for this presentation are not mine. I don't own them, but I've used them here just to make the presentation a little more presentable, a little more visual. Hopefully it will prove to be of benefit to help tell the story that I want to tell. I would suggest if anyone is using a laptop or a desktop specifically, that maybe you can put to full screen. If you don't already do so, it may help to make the presentation a little more interesting. If you're on a phone, then I don't think there's much I can do to help because even the big phones are still quite small. But nevertheless, I will begin. So today, if I may, I wish to focus this short address on what I personally consider to be the heart and soul of Shongho. Even now, after 40 odd years in business, with a growing collection of varying health and wellness products now available, the heart and soul remains, for me at least, and I think if you ask many people, this will be the first thing that comes to mind, is of course Lingzhi or Lingzhi, the superior herb that, as far as I know, through my research and reading, has no equal, and it does indeed possess a God-given power to help the human body heal naturally. However, before we dive too deeply into what Lingzhi is and what it's all about and its history and what have you, I'd like, if I may, to step back in time to help us all, to remind us if we don't already know, if we do already know, and to inform people who maybe don't know so much about the story, the backstory. I'd like to begin with the story of Lingzhi and how it came into being, how it came to be a herb that has been related to and associated with for the longest time with the idea, the notion of health and healing. And there is actually a story. It's a legend, no doubt, but it doesn't matter because it makes it all the more interesting for us as people who are ardent about health and interested in health and want to talk to other people about health and share the story of health. It makes it much more interesting for us to have a story. So there is a story, and the story, now let me see how, okay. I've entitled it "A Crown for the Common Man," and you'll see why as I go through the slides that follow. So once upon a time, atop an ancient misty mountain, there lived a king. And this king was blessed with the power to heal all manner of ills, all kinds of sicknesses, all kinds of troubles that beset man from the beginning of time until obviously today, which is much worse. And it was even claimed in those days, and even now people still talk about it, that this king had the power to even extend life's natural span, supposedly, however you want to interpret that. And such was this power that even emperors sought to possess his crown. And then this is kind of the reveal now. So, for there is no crown so precious as the crown of health. And as I will mention of later in the this evening's talk, this crown is something that we, when we are healthy, do not see or feel or are even aware of. But those who are sick, they see it upon the heads of those who have health, and they feel that they're missing something. So yes, this crown is indeed a very precious thing. And this crown of health is what the emperor of old, a man who was known as Emperor Wu of Han, was in search of. This is what the legend is all about, because he sent his army into the hills from behind the high walls of his resplendent palace over 2,000 years ago in search of this legendary mushroom of immortality, which is also known as the king of herbs, hence the reference in the beginning to the king, which is also known to us as Lingzhi or Lingzhi. So it was rumored that this king was located atop a mythical mountain in ancient China. This mountain was called Penglai Mountain. Penglai Mountain, apparently, when you translate it, it means the mountain of immortals. So you can see why it's considered a legend, because obviously in real life, immortals don't exist, but the idea of longevity, of adding years to our life, has always been something that has attracted and appealed to mankind over time. So why did this emperor, the question would be, a man who had so much power and so much wealth, why did he send his army up the mountain to find Lingzhi? Because the answer is very simple. He believed that if he consumed it, it would give him eternal life. And even though he was an emperor who owned everything, he obviously didn't own life itself. He would also be subject one day to death. So he wanted to own this and possess this king, the crown of this king, to live forever. But unfortunately, the army, they went up the mountain, and it doesn't say how long they looked for, but we can imagine it was probably a very long time, because mountains can be very, very large and cover lots and lots of square kilometers. So they went up there, and for however long they were up there looking here and there, they discovered nothing. And so one day, eventually, they returned to the emperor. Sadly for all, they returned empty-handed. So the emperor, albeit a man who owned everything, with great wealth and great power, still remained a man. Even for him, immortality would have to wait. But this is the legend of Lingzhi, which I think has been probably told many times, and maybe is very familiar to many of you here today. But this tale of old reflects well the widespread belief that since that time perhaps has become associated with Lingzhi, that Lingzhi, with its mystical allure, has become a symbol of health and longevity and spiritual enlightenment. Now, interestingly, while many emperors since that time, I guess, from multiple dynasties have long since passed, the legacy of Lingzhi remains. It still survives and still lives today. It has endured the passage of time. So Lingzhi has a kind of immortality, I guess, in that sense, at least while we're still here in this dunya. So the crown of health, of which we made mention, is something, as I said earlier, is something that only the sick can see upon the heads of the healthy. And although it's not worn for show, it shows to those who are sick, who in some way or form, they lack a measure of what others have, what others can enjoy. And as life goes on and around them from day to day, they feel the pain, they feel the worry, they feel that they lack something which everyone else has, which is the good health. And I'm sure if you've ever been sick, which is probably most of us here, you will know how it feels when you see the world around you happily going about their day, and we're still either feeling a pain or having an ache, or even sometimes sick and suffering in bed, and being troubled by this illness or sickness. We feel that everyone else has something that we don't, and we really miss our health. So this is why the idea, I think, endures, why the idea has so much appeal to man in general. Not only the idea of immortality, obviously, but also the idea of just being well and being able to control how our body heals and how it stays in a healthy condition. So the question then is, what is Lingzhi exactly? Does it even deserve the deep reverence accorded it or given to it by man? Is it truly the king of herbs? Does it deliver on the promise of legends past? So to answer that, maybe it would be interesting, once again, to just take a quick look at what the ancients said in the texts of old, in the ancient manuscripts and the ancient medical journals that were written, some of them as long ago as 2,500 years ago. But perhaps the most comprehensive and certainly the most monumental in size, according to research, is one called the Compendium of Materia Medica by a character called Lingzhi. This was a great work compiled during the Ming Dynasty in the 16th century. It was completed in around 1578. So here are some quotes from that book. But a lot of what was in this book has also been have been referenced in books that were written far, far, far earlier. So this is, once again, it's not something that he discovered during that time. This one preceded him by in some cases thousands of years. So the first one that I found interesting, this is a quote from the book. He said, "Lingzhi, bitter in taste, balances heat, strengthens qi, nourishes the body, and promotes longevity." Longevity being now the more sensible version of immortality. It also enhances spiritual clarity, lightness, and youthful vitality, enabling a long and healthy life without hunger. Then another one said, Lingzhi, slightly bitter, which we know to be true. Cold, non-toxic, which is what we hear all the time, safe to eat. Mothers can eat it, pregnant women can eat it, babies can eat it, it's non-toxic, great. Treats heart palpitations, enhances wisdom, and promotes longevity without aging. And then another one, this one I think would be quite familiar. I mean, it's almost saying it's the king of herbs, but they said it in a different way. They say, Lingzhi is the chief of 10,000 medicines. So we know they have a very rich history, medically speaking, the Chinese, the ancient Chinese. So of all the medicines that they came across, from all the different herbs and all the different substances they acquired and experimented with, they found that Lingzhi is the chief of all of these other medicines that they've discovered and used in their everyday traditions. Now, this is just as a matter of interest for those. I put the text there in the visuals, but it was provided by ChatGPT. So I can't speak or read classical Mandarin, if that's actually what it is. So I'm not sure if it's actually authentic. I have no way of verifying that. And we all know that well, maybe not everybody, but if you're familiar with AI, you know that ChatGPT specifically is infamous for misquoting and even sometimes making things up. I just hope that's not the case here. So I trust the English, but I'm not sure about the Chinese text. For anybody who can actually read that, maybe they can check it and advise accordingly, because I don't want to be giving out false information either. So to carry on, we'll come back to this slide now, which is what is Lingzhi. We have those quotes, we have that support, we have that empirical evidence, so to speak, from years and years of trials in the field, spanning over many centuries. So what is Lingzhi? So now I'm going to break that down a little bit more over the next few slides, but once again I have to give a disclaimer, because I did find on the internet many slides of all the different kinds of Lingzhi that I'm going to talk about in a minute. There's about 9 or 6, 7 or 8 I think different types, but I did find pictures, but they're all quite visually unappealing. So I used a little creative license to help make the slide a little more interesting. Of course, this is subjective. I find it interesting. Maybe other people don't find it so, but at least I want to just let you in on what you can expect, so that you're not taken aback or shocked by what you see on the following slides, because you don't see Lingzhi, but what you do see is other mushrooms. And you should know that within the world of mushrooms and fungi in general, there are approximately, according to scientific research, between 2.2 and 2.8 million species of mushrooms and fungi in the world today, all across the planet. And Lingzhi is a small number amongst those many, many mushrooms and fungi. So within the world of mushrooms, there lives Lingzhi. So within the pictures you see on the following page, you imagine the character in the picture is looking for the Lingzhi amongst the world of mushrooms and fungi that exists across the world. But just to reinforce the fact that Lingzhi does actually enrich in a very powerful and fundamental way the fungal diversity on the planet. And there are many, 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 many species. I think there's a number which I'll come to later, but it's well over 200 that have been studied and documented since the ancient times. But I'm going to focus on just a few here, just to let you in on the fact that there's more than one kind of Lingzhi and what these different kinds of Lingzhi they actually do. So if we go to the next slide. Okay, so this is us in the world of mushrooms looking for the Lingzhi. And one of the, now I'll just make a slight disclaimer here also. I don't know how these words are pronounced, to be honest. So if I make a mistake, once again, I apologize. I'm just going to approximate how I think it should be pronounced. So it's Ganoderma sinense or sinense. I'm not sure how it should be pronounced. So this is in the everyday world of common people like us, it's called black reishi. So this species is native to China and other regions of East Asia. So it's pretty local. It's, according to research, it's similar in appearance to Ganoderma lucidum, which is the one that Shuanghuo uses, which we'll come to in a while. And it is also valued for its medicinal properties, which you'll see are quite similar to the one that we use too. It supports immune function, it promotes longevity, it improves overall health. And it's been used also in the past in traditional Chinese medicine. There's another one called Ganoderma sugai. Hopefully it's correct, the pronunciation. This is known as hemlock reishi. So you see how the names flip from Ganoderma to reishi. So this is why a lot of people get confused about, are these things different or are they the same? But once you begin to understand the naming systems and how they're applied in the real world, you'll see that actually there's a lot of things that have 2 or 3 names. So this species is native to North America and is typically found growing on the hemlock tree, hence the name hemlock reishi. And it shares many of the same medicinal properties as other Lingzhi species. And just like the Chinese used the Lingzhi they found in their locality, probably the sinense or the lucidum, this was used, the sugai was used by Native Americans for its potent immune stimulating and anti-inflammatory effects. So once again, it was recognized and used as a medicine for the longest time, because we know the Native Americans have been there also for thousands and thousands of years in the Americas. And then we have one which is interestingly and maybe confusingly called Ganoderma Lingzhi. Ganoderma Lingzhi. This species is native to Asia and it's highly prized by Ayurvedic tradition, medical traditions, and also by Chinese traditional medicine too. And its treatment or its health benefits are similar. They support immune function. It's known to have anti-cancer properties and anti-inflammatory effects. So no surprises there. They all have a similar functionality. If we go to the next one. Okay, there's just a few more. Hopefully I'm not boring anyone. There's Ganoderma australe. So this is southern reishi, typically found in Australia and New Zealand. Closely related to Ganoderma lucidum. And once again, as many of the others that have preceded it, it shares many of the same medicinal properties and has been used also by the indigenous tribes of the Australia and of New Zealand for the longest time. So this is not new to the ancient people, to the indigenous people of ancient lands, ancient cultures and societies. Lingzhi was a common medicine, commonly used each and every day, because it was known to be and recognized to be very, very, very powerful. So they had no need for Panadol and paracetamol and all the other things that we commonly refer to these days and rely upon, unfortunately. So once again, this has immune boosting potency and anti-inflammatory impact on the body. And then we have Ganoderma resinaceum, which is known as lacquered reishi, because the cap has a very shiny, the cap of the mushroom has a very shiny appearance. It's typically found in Europe, it can be found in Asia, and it's also found in North America, so it's quite widespread. And once again, it's known for its health benefits, which include immune modulation and potential anti-cancer properties. And then we have another one called Ganoderma aplanatum, sorry. This is called the artist's conch. It's also widespread across the temperate regions of the world. And this one, although it's not typically used or has never been used typically in Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, it is currently being studied by scientists. I'm not sure where, it didn't state where, but for those same kind of properties, for its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. So it's recognized as having a great deal of potential value to mankind. And then finally, if we come to the last slide in this series, we have two more. So we have Ganoderma tropicum, which is found, as the name suggests, in the tropical regions of the world. It's known for its reddish brown cap and distinctive patterned pores underneath. Like I say, to get the pictures that describe these things and show these things, it's very difficult. Usually the pictures are quite ugly. So unfortunately, sorry, I apologize, I couldn't get the pictures. So right now it's just words and descriptions, but hopefully it proves to be of some benefit to everyone. So this has also been used in traditional medicine systems across the world, where it's found, the tropics specifically, for the same thing, for immune boosting and for anti-inflammatory impact on the body. And then finally, we have the one that we know best, the one that we've been eating, if we're Shuanghorians for the longest time, Ganoderma lucidum. So this species, also known as red reishi or varnished conch, is not only with us, amongst the Shuanghorian people, but also I think maybe across Asia and maybe even the other parts of the world too, is famous, one of the most famous and extensively researched types of Lingzhi. So it's characterized, as I'm sure you know when you've seen it in the Shuangho headquarters, by its shiny reddish brown cap and its woody stem. And it's been traditionally used in Chinese medicine for the longest time because it says believed, what we essentially know that it's proven also by modern day research, to possess a wide range of health promoting properties. So immune modulation, anti-inflammatory effects, and liver protection. So as a result of this rich cultural significance of this extensive use in traditional Chinese medicine for many, many years, thousands of years literally, it's revered and renowned. Ganoderma lucidum is revered and renowned for the health benefits that, as I said before, include immune modulation, include acclaimed antioxidant properties, as well as longevity and vitality. This is why it's become the preferred choice for cultivation, for scientific research. And it's currently considered the flagship species of the genus, overshadowing the other varieties which we made mention of just a moment ago. Now, whether that's right or whether that's wrong is not the point. The point is, it is the flagship species currently to an overwhelming degree. And we know from what we've learned of Shuangho that cultivation under controlled conditions ensures in this modern age, more so than in the past, I would imagine, a consistent quality and supply, which is what modernity requires with all its regulatory controls and the need for governments to know what's going into a product and how it's going to impact someone's health. But this versatility of the Ganoderma lucidum allows for integration into many different kinds of products, which is why it's become a sought-after choice in the health and wellness industry. Now, just as a matter of interest, the word Ganoderma is derived from the word ganos, which means brightness or shine, and derma, which means skin. So if you take it literally, it means a shiny skin, which is what you can see if you've seen the examples of the Lingzhi in the Shuangho headquarters. You'll know how it looks like. It's very shiny on top. The cap is very shiny, and it has I wouldn't say it's lacquered, but it's kind of a shiny look and feel to it. Even though even though maybe we haven't actually had the opportunity to find the same kind of thing in the real world. We just looked at what we've seen in the headquarters there. So all in all, there are believed to be about, as I said earlier, 200 species of Lingzhi within the Ganoderma genus. So having learned as we did in the beginning, that the emperor went out in search of the Lingzhi and he didn't find it, but then over time people did become more familiar with the places and spaces that different kinds of Lingzhi existed, and then they started to do experimentation, and books have been recording the effects and the impacts and the health benefits of different kinds of Lingzhi over the last 2,500 years or so. So the people have learned a lot about the different kinds of Lingzhi. They've learned a lot about what Lingzhi can do. And although those things may in some degree be parallel, we've come to the point today where we're focusing on the one, the Ganoderma lucidum, as I say. It's a superior herb. It's listed as such in the text of old. And just once again, this is just additional information. I'm not sure if it's interesting or not, but to me it's interesting because it also gives a clue as to how Lingzhi works in the body to some degree. Now, whether this is correct or not, I'm not sure, but the idea is that the Lingzhi in the wild is something called saprotrophic. It's a saprotrophic, it's not called a plant, right? It's a saprotrophic fungi. What does that mean? Basically, it means it feeds off either dead or organic matter. This is why you find them in the forest, on old trees or dying trees, because this is where it gets its source of food. And this is how it keeps the ecosystem alive, by decomposing the old trees and the dead trees and returning them to the soil for new forest growth. So it keeps the ecology of the forest in balance. So it's a nice idea to look at that, how it works in the body, how it clears all the toxins and all the dirt and all the rubbish from our body and allows our body to heal itself. So I'm not sure how medically correct I am in suggesting there's a kind of a parallel, but it's a very easy way to understand how Lingzhi works in the wild and how to equate it with how that might work also in the body. But the idea of toxins being thrown from the body is very similar to basically the nature redigesting the old and the dying matter in the ecosystem and returning it renewed and refreshed for new growth and for continuation of life within the forest ecosystem. So in the old medical journals, as people began to, as I say, research the Lingzhi, they noticed that there was many different colors. So these colors, I think, will be reflected in the names that I shared with you earlier. So there's red, there's black, there's white, there's green, there's yellow, and there's even purple. So some people suggest that these colors correspond to different particular organs within the body. But this is still a speculative idea. There's no evidence from science or from research to suggest that this connection is indeed true or has been validated in any way. And there are many people who are saying the different colors merely are reflective of the seasonal changes or the varying elevations at which Lingzhi grows, or the different soil types in the different kinds of forests. But just to let you know, of all the Lingzhi that we've come across, there are going to be those that are red, black, white, green, yellow, and purple, which is, once again, something that is interesting and makes the story much, much richer. But what is the truth behind the different colors? Well, I guess time and science will tell. So this is what happened. Over the centuries, a great deal of wealth was acquired. Many texts were compiled. And then, as we've come to a point today, the king's crown has become the people's crown, because now Lingzhi is readily available. In fact, it's been readily available to the people at large for the longest time, although not marketed in the modern way. So the properties have been researched and documented. There are many medical tomes, big books, big volumes, which may still be referenced today from the texts, and also now coming out across the world. There's a lot of eager and exciting research going on in the Western world too. They're trying to play catch up with the Eastern world to try and find out what this Lingzhi is all about and how they can take advantage of its health-giving properties. So just to go back and quickly describe the characteristics of Lingzhi. trying to reinforce the story of what we made mention of earlier. So Lingzhi, Ganoderma lucidum, the color of the cap, the texture, it's a woody stem. It's sturdy in contrast to the softness of the cap. And then the taste too has been assessed. So we know if we've taken Lingzhi, it's very bitter. And this is a characteristic indication that Lingzhi is ideal for clearing the heat and draining the dampness from the body. And then the bitterness aside, it was also noted that the nature of Lingzhi ranged between neutral and warm. So according to Chinese tradition, this means that it has a gentle yet invigorating effect on the body's internal balance. So once again, it's reinforcing things that we've come to know since we started doing the Lingzhi business, but it's things that people have known for the longest time. Maybe not into such detail at the molecular level or the microscopic level of activity, but still things that they knew that it has a positive impact on the body and on health in general. So their conclusions were, as we know, because we're still using it today, is that Lingzhi is well suited as a remedial approach for many health conditions and is compatible, interestingly, with various other herbs used in traditional Chinese medicine. As we can also see today, that the Lingzhi that we sell is also compatible in the sense that it can be used with more modern medications. It doesn't interfere or interact with them in any negative way that will hurt or harm the human body. So generally, we can say or conclude that therapeutically, Lingzhi benefits overall health, which is something we know, but this is a story now that we have to make everything, connect all the points together. So it tonifies qi, or the vital energy of the body, and it nourishes the blood. It calms the mind and it soothes the spirit. It regulates immunity, and as we've said many, many times, it acts as an inflammatory to alleviate pain and reduce swelling. And also these ancient texts, these ancient learnings, they told us on the extensive guidance of the application of Lingzhi. So recommending it for a diverse range of health conditions and constitutions, and prescribing it either as a standalone remedy or as part of a herbal formulation concocted with other herbs to meet the specific needs of a patient. So in other words, it's very versatile. It's suitable for a wide spectrum of health issues: immune deficiencies, respiratory ailments, digestive disorders, liver and kidney imbalances, and emotional disturbances. So this is what the ancients discovered. This is what the ancients shared with us. This knowledge we know we're using today, we're basically repeating or replicating the same kind of knowledge, but with a little more scientific backing, perhaps. In the past, Lingzhi was either consumed as a powder, or as a tincture, or as an infusion in a tea to stimulate its healing power and help restore harmony to the body and promote longevity in body, mind, and spirit. So all of the effort, this great work that's been done and collected this great amount of knowledge over the millennia, has basically delivered the crown to man. So this is a very precious gift from nature, and it's a symbol of benevolence and healing. So even today, as the R&D continues and the secrets of Lingzhi are still being discovered anew, or more and more things about Lingzhi that we haven't known in the past are being revealed, it's something that we can take advantage of and use to help ourselves and our families and the greater community at large. Also, beyond its medical prowess, Lingzhi, we should understand, holds profound symbolic and cultural importance in society, especially here in this part of the world. And although, you know, maybe we can't seriously talk about immortality anymore, or it being an elixir of life, we do know that it does, in actual fact, help to promote the inner vitality and harmonize the body's meridians, physical, emotional, and spiritual levels. So it's beyond just being a medicine. It's much more than that. It's much more than something we take every once in a while when we're feeling down. It can be something that we incorporate as a habit into our daily lives. And in fact, health, as we know, should be seen as an investment, not an expense. So this is why I guess we're all here today, because we've come to the point now where we have this this business of Shuanghe, which has taken all of this knowledge, this body of knowledge, this rich and highly compelling history, this cultural heritage, this legacy of Lingzhi, and built it into a modern business. And we are now in a fortunate position to take advantage of that. So we know Shuanghe. I'm not going to go too much into this because time is almost run out. But basically, we know Shuanghe is a front runner in the field, a recognized and accredited leader on the global stage that has taken on the mantle of the ancients, of the work done in the past over many millennia, and kept the story of Lingzhi alive and made it relevant for everyone in the modern age. Suffice to say, that it has managed to, over the last 40 odd years or so, invested untold resources to cultivate, to propagate, to research, to develop, to innovate, to advocate, to educate and market Lingzhi without any controversy, without any issue of any kind. And in support of what it's done, we have the third-party accreditation, we have the GMP recognition, we have the GLP recognition, we have the patents, which all support this unambiguous declaration that Lingzhi does indeed boost healthy liver function, regulate immune system, ease inflammation, and protect against free radicals. So it's a wonderful gift that we have been delivered to us, that now is presented to us via Shuanghe, this platform. And it's something that we can, as common people, it's a crown that we can offer to our fellow men, to our family, to our friends, to our community at large, and just reiterate and reaffirm this long history and legacy, this rich story that is been rooted in the past but is still relevant today, because health is something that we should be only too willing and too eager to share with one and all. So hopefully I haven't bored anyone this evening, because I know I go on sometimes quite a long time. But in closing, I would just like to it's important to know the history, because when we share with people, it kind of makes our narrative a little more interesting, a little more enriching to hear the backstory and the details of the story. And so whatever we can weave into a story when we talk to people, it does help to enrich the conversation and also enrich the feedback, or the potential feedback from the people that we're talking to, and maybe even prompt questions and further for further inquiry or discovery about other new and interesting points. So with that, I bid you all good night, hoping I've said something of benefit and not frustrated too many people along the way. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And there you see the old man looking at the mountain, hoping to find the immortality, but he is thinking here, go diamond, go beyond, go now, wish Shuanghe. Thank you, one and all.
Okay, thank you Special Vice Manager Malik untuk presentation tentang Lingzhi, basically tentang Lingzhi. Saya nak tanya, ada apa-apa soalan ke daripada semua tentang topik-topik kita pada malam ini? Kalau ada apa-apa soalan, boleh onkan mic untuk tanya, ataupun kalau malu nak onkan mic, boleh type pada chat. Okay. Kalau tak ada, kita nak semua orang bersedia, mana-mana yang dah bersedia untuk onkan kamera untuk kita ambil gambar untuk kenang-kenangan. Sementara tu kalau ada soalan boleh bertanya, jangan malu-malu. Okay, so minta ayah tolong ambilkan gambar kalau semua dah bersedia.
Okay, kita ambil gambar. Ready? Okay, sekejap. Okay, ready. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Okay. Alright, terima kasih ayah untuk ambil gambar, dan terima kasih semua yang hadir pada malam ini. So kalau apa-apa info yang kita dapat pada malam ini, cuba sebar-sebarkan, cuba ingat dan bagi tahu lebih ramai orang supaya lebih ramai orang tahu tentang apa benda yang kita buat selama ni. Okay. Alright, so Assalamualaikum dan selamat malam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi